right, we also have joining us in the studio Mr. Samuel Oramali, a public affairs analyst. He'll be helping us to look at some of those stories that we'll be reading out this morning. Samuel, good morning.
Good morning.
How was your night?
Yeah, it was beautiful. Except, of course, the high temperature. Seems like instead of the rain coming back, the heat is actually coming back.
All right. Welcome. All right, as we usually do it, we normally run with ABS website and look at some other national dailies. So we'll begin with ABS website this morning. No plans to sack all political appointees. Reports of panic in Obiano's government false. That's coming from Adenoba, Information and Public Enlightenment Commissioner. Today is World Down Syndrome Day. Anambra government holds interagency review meeting in Oka with development partners. Anambra government honors 11-year-old Chisomelo Anaka for academic excellence. Today is World Poetry Day. Those are the stories that we have on ABS website. We'll start with the first story there. The story says, no panic in Obiano's government. No plans to sack all political appointees. Report of panic in Obiano's government false. What was your reaction to that story?
Well, it depends on. Firstly, I have not heard of the whole panic about AIDS being sacked, and then, but I think it's due that after some time the government should be able to reshuffle its cabinet, even if it's not totally sacked them, maybe reshuffle them, put one or two persons in place. I'm sure there are one or two persons that are not doing very well. You might want to get better people to put in there. So the talk of if it's outright sack for all his aides, no, I don't think it's wrong. But I'm sure that Anambra State government needs some sort of reshufflement in the cabinet.
All right. Today is World Down Syndrome Day. This, let's say, ailment or natural deficiency seems to be one of the less talked about in our society.
And funny enough, if you look at the population of people, the number of persons suffering from Down syndrome, you'll be surprised at why it's talked about very little, because the numbers are actually very high. We have a thing in Africa, we tend to suppress issues that we need to talk about. I mean, I feel that corporate organizations, the government should spend more time talking about or enlightening people on things like Down syndrome, things like depression, things like albinism, more than they spend more money in entertainment and in some other things they actually spend their money on.
And it seems at times, are we going to say that our culture, to an extent, contributes to this anomaly, thinking that some of these diseases are ascribed to one god, small god, or someone somewhere pressing the remote control?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of finding a solution to that problem.
Exactly. We feel that if a baby has a Down syndrome, maybe an uncle is doing something, probably trying to mess with the fortunes of the family, and then somehow we feel that the less we talk about it, the thing actually goes away.
We also have Anambra government honors 11-year-old Chisomelo Anaka for academic excellence.
So beautiful something. I think it's something we should do more often. We should actually dedicate more funds, more time to praise young persons who are actually doing well, more than we actually talk about people who are not. All right.
Okay. Let's run over now to the Daily Sun newspaper. The papers are very hot this morning. On the front page of the Sun, Imo West, Okorocha drags INEC to court over certificate of return. PDP accuses Governor Okorocha, that's governor, of selling 71 government vehicles for 6.1 million. For 6.1 million naira specifically. Presidential election, that's the banner headline there. Article APC exchange fire. Court will restore my stolen mandate, says PDP candidate. You are suffering depression over defeat. APC hits back. ruling party's victory will be short-lived. That's Saraki. We also have some other stories there. Bauchi Guba, PDP reports judge to NJC. Court decides on supplementary election today. That's that specific peculiar Bauchi story. Rivers PDP elders alleged plot to shift result collation to April 2. Court turns down AAC's request to stop exercise. We also have Buhari declines assent to 5 bills. Those are the major stories on the front page of the Daily Sun. The storm that the outcome of the presidential election is gathering. How do you? What's the analysis?
Well, firstly, we need to tell it to anybody and everybody who wishes to listen. Of course, we know that our presidential election was. There were a lot of irregularities in the polls, and then PDP came out yesterday and said that from the stuff they got from the INEC server that they won the election by 1.6 million votes. APC said PDP is suffering from post-election depression. Now, I'm intrigued because Atiku is going to court and it will do very well for Nigerian democracy, not because I think Atiku won that election, but it will actually be fun to watch. See if the tribunal is going to give the victory to Atiku. Personally, I do not see that happen, but of course it will say a lot about our legal and our democracy if we actually get that done.
From the layman's point of view, the argument has been that the Electoral Act has not guaranteed for electronic voting or transmission. So on which grounds would Atiku be arguing for what he saw or he got from INEC server?
Well, kudos to President Buhari for not signing the Electoral Act, because that is pure politics. He played pure politics there. He knows that signing that, of course, will give the courts the rights to this thing to now talk about card readers. Like I said, I don't see Atiku getting any thing from the courts, not because he did not win the election, but because the technicalities he's talking about is not legally enshrined in our constitution. In
presently.
But from all indications, the PDP is saying that all the results they collected were duly signed by INEC officers from different polling units. And it was from that results that they have calculated and see the number of votes that they got.
Okay.
So electronics or no electronics, votes were counted at the polling units.
And
the figures registered and signed by party representatives and INEC. So how would the court turn that one down?
Well, this is Nigeria. It's very sad to say, but then this is Nigeria. How are we sure that the things that PDP actually telling us are the truth? How are we sure that these documents are actually real and they are factual? How are we sure they are not propaganda, of course, to raise the hopes in their own basis? But then if it's true, then there's too much maneuvering in our judicial system. I mean, last minute changing of this person to this person, changing. You see, these things were made these changes were made for times like this. Nigeria is such a country where it's the winner takes it all. Whoever is the president dictates what happens in the legislature, dictates what happens in the judiciary. If we could have independence of these particular systems, if the president cannot just come up and decide who becomes this and who doesn't become this, then maybe Atiku will have had something to say on this particular situation, but I still don't see him actually getting anything from it.
Okay, but before we go on, let's quickly look at this Bauchi issue. Bauchi Guba, PDP reports charge to NJC, and yesterday we also had INEC said they're going to court because perhaps they're standing on the law that says that a high court has no jurisdiction to stop election that has been scheduled or stop collection that is ongoing. Okay. First
of all, I think the ruling party is the way they're handling it. They handled or are handling the 2019 election is pure evil. It's out there for the records. Of course, kids are going to look at it tomorrow. But when we begin to make some moves to glaringly, you know that these things are wrong, and then you're trying to subvert people's opinion or people's wish because you want some particular person to stay in power, I think it's wrong. Now, PDP are saying if court stops them from collecting this result, we're going to court, and then we're going to make sure that President Buhari doesn't get sworn in on 29th May.
And I said they first of all want to report to NJC to find out if they can allow this kind of thing to happen, knowing fully well that the law says that it should not be.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I actually like the way this is going.
We'll come back to that. There are still stories relating to that. Remember that this discussion segment or newspaper review can also take your contributions and questions. You can call us in through the phone lines on your screen. But for now, we'll bring you a message at this point. Stay with us.
Life evolves. You should too. 3G is great. 4G is better. Buy an Airtel SIM to enjoy double data on Nigeria's widest 4G network.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Yes, it's still good morning, Anambra, and this is the newspaper review segment, and we still have Mr. Samuel Oramali, a public affairs analyst, with us in the studio. We want to look at the story, Daily Times newspaper now. On the front page of the Daily Times, federal government approves 27.46 billion for IDPs 2018 flood victims. Presidential election has scored over 18.3 million votes against Buhari's 16.7 million votes. That's Atiku. Ex-VP, PDP hallucinating, suffering post-election depression. We've taken that already in the other paper. We have Nigeria top 71 countries in latest global happiness rankings. I think we'll talk about this, right? Supplementary polls. Redeem Nigeria's image. PDP charges INEC chairman. Delta sacks 35 principals, 10 chief inspectors over illegal fees. Kanu MBA accuses police of colluding with PDP intimidation of members. Federal government approves 27.46 billion for IDPs and 2018 flood victims. That's the story we are seeing on the front page of the Daily Times.
Let's look at that IDP issue. Where does the money go? Who
Exactly.
spends the money?
Exactly.
Let's see if somebody has joined us before you come in.
Okay, I think it's also.
Everybody. Yes.
Well,
It's a beautiful thing to call these figures, because if only just 50% of these figures actually goes to the IDPs, we will have talked, as in it's a beautiful something. Okay, when you talk about that money and then what we get from the international community, I'm sure you're going to get a lot of beautiful results. But the problem is this: more than 80% of this money do not go to these people. Before they come down from the chains of command, it's been frittered away completely.
you think the fight against corruption by this government wouldn't reduce that, what I call it, pilfering?
First, this government is not fighting corruption. What they're trying to do is they're trying to recover some loot from some sections of the society. Now, when you want to fight corruption, one of the things you do is to reduce the number of persons or number of places where this money had to go to before it gets to these people. Make it electronic. Get this money straight to the people handling the IDPs, probably straight to the missionaries who are handling it. Don't get it to the SSG get it, SFG get it to this person gets it to this person. It's these things that fritter away this money.
And just yesterday, I was watching a few documentary on the IDP and lives in the IDP and in the camp, and it was very pathetic.
It is.
Not even water. Now we are talking of billions. Of naira.
I have a friend
not even water to drink in the camp. Not to talk of food, shelter, clothing, and all the rest of it. So where does this money go?
I have a friend who actually she's in Zamfara, and she works with one of the IDPs. she's being paid by the United Nations, and then when she gets this money, she had to cut the salary they give her by 2, and then push it back to the IDPs because their situation is so bad that some of them, they drink water that is so contaminated, something like worms actually come up in the body.
And we are talking of 27.46 billion naira.
We are talking about billions.
And despite this, will I call it disappointments from government, Nigeria still tops on the ranking of world happiness.
Because we have not, you see, what makes people happy is, or what changes the situation is this. Now, I earn 5,000 naira every day, and probably someone in America earns 70,000. I earn 5,000. I have not moved from my 5,000. I've never experienced earning 70 and then coming down to 5,000. So I am comfortable and happy the way I am. We've lost trust in the system, so we are happy in our own state.
You think we are happy in our mediocrity?
We're happy because we don't even trust the system from the beginning. Now, Nigerians, for instance, I'm happy because if I work hard as a Nigerian, removing every other government, in every part of the world, in better part of the world, the government actually try to make you happy, try to make you live better. In this
okay, someone wants to join us. Hello. Hello. Good morning. Your name and where you're calling us from?
It's Joseph.
All right.
I'm calling you from Okahik.
All right, go on.
Yes, I want to say something on the Bauchi saga.
Okay.
The point in Bauchi is that the contention there is that do INEC have the right to start collecting the result of SAPA? They were having earlier said to declare the election inconclusive. That is the contention there. And the Electoral Act, Section 68, Sub 1C, simply stipulates that any declaration made by INEC returning officer can only be final and can only be reversed by a tribunal or in court. So once you say the election is inconclusive, you don't need to go back and start saying another thing altogether. It is different from what is happening in Rivers. That is suspected and refused to make any pronouncement. That is the contention there. So, but ordinarily, some of these things would have gone to tribunal and not ordinary court.
But barrister,
yes.
INEC looked at their figures. One of the things they said was that a particular figure that was supposed to be 2,530 votes was written 25,330 votes. Don't you think, even though they've made that declaration, they've looked at what they have and seen that mathematically this is impossible?
No. If you make any pronouncement, whether that pronouncement was made, let me read section 38 so that you will understand where I'm going with it. The decision of the returning officer on any question arising from or relating to A, unmarked ballot paper, B, rejected ballot paper, and the C, that is where we are now talking, declaration of scores of candidates and the return of the candidate shall be final to get to review by the tribunal or court.
All right.
In an election petition proceeding under this act.
Okay, thank you very much, Barrister.
If a pronouncement was made in the like a Kurocha, the brother has gone to court, you don't have the right to say anything in. That is what the tribunal will determine.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Barrister. I think you've done an expose.
Yes, exactly.
So you were saying something before you cut it off.
And then I was going to ask you that it depends on what the term happiness in Nigeria, because ordinarily one should expect that what happened during the election, whereby people feel that some people feel they are disenfranchised, some people feel that their mandate was stolen, that Nigeria would have gone out to the streets to protest, but nobody's protesting. That simply means you're happy.
Exactly, but the thing is, there's something about happiness or sadness. It comes with expectations. It's only when you expect something that you could be happy or sad about a situation. Nigerians are expectant only on themselves. So when you meet up to your personal obligation, when you meet up to the things you are looking at, if I set out today to make 1,000 and then I make it out, if I set out today to meet my mom and then I meet her, if I set out today to take my wife out and I do that, I am happy. Now, countries like America, Sweden, these people are expectant on their government because they believe in their system and they expect their system to do one or two things. And when it's not done, they get either happy or sad. That's why you get things like happiness gauge, happiness pool in America to gauge the mood of the people. You don't have such things in Nigeria. People, like, you expect the government to give you lights. No, go and buy a generator. And if you buy a generator, you're happy.
Produce your own happiness.
Exactly.
Okay, let's put your head.
I think that's how far we'll go on the show this morning as we looked at the papers. The stories across most of the papers are similar. That's why we dwelled on just two. Thank you, Mr. Samuel Oramali, Public Affairs Analyst, for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Maybe before you come the next time, our happiness rate must have increased.
I hope so.
Thank you very much. Stay with us as we look at the discussions on World Poetry Day, exploring different themes and how that as genre of literature is impacting on our lives on a daily basis. Stay with us.